So far, we explored two books. The first one is ArcGIS Pro, and the second one is the GIS tutorial for ArcGIS Pro. And the next one we're going to explore is Understanding GIS. So let's summarize it. So this book, I would say if you don't know anything about ArcGIS for the previous version, it's a good book to start. And the exercises and everything is easy. It starts with ArcGIS and ArcGIS Online. So how to publish map first, and then back to ArcGIS to present to know the very basic information. So if you don't know where to get started, it's a good book, as I mentioned, in how to edit data and do some heads-up digitizing, how to select layer to edit, and some basic edit tool that will show you how to create a feature. And I would say this book is very reliable because I don't find any issue in this book. Only a little updates, and the instruction and everything is very easy to follow. This tool gives you very basic functions for everyday use, for a lot of common use, and it does has some 3D shown in here. So, and later we did some raster analysis that calculate the shed and aspects and use the raster calculator. And the last chapter, total is 10 chapters, it will show you how to present maps for symbology. That is something very, very nice here. Alright, so that is this book. And the second book we used was this book, ArcGIS tutorial for ArcGIS Pro. This book, there are some issues running some of the tools, and this book, I would say, it's a great book because it gave the instructor a lot of information, and it kind of classified what into parts that the major part that we use in making sharing maps, and then you work with spatial data, then you apply some advanced GIS technologies and managing operational system with GIS. So it put ArcGIS Builder and everything, and teach you to use collector. So it's kind of in another way, kind of very organized into parts, some major parts, and when you remember our slides, that the 4 major parts, in each part they put into circles, and they put into different area within that category. The only disadvantages is that some tool is not running, because I think it's not ideal for the trial version. For both of the books, for this book, the geocoding, it was a little weird. That it caught me. In this book, introduced almost everything. The dashboard, I didn't get a chance to use it yet. Hopefully I will save it later, that I have the 21 days trial version, so when I have enough data, I have to save the time to do it. And for some of the function, it's not really working, but it's not a lot, but just some tools that's not running. Overall, there were some interesting tools that a lot of schools, at least my school, my university, I spent several years there, and it wouldn't have chances to run some of the tools. But for ArcGIS, a lot of functions you it's impossible that you run every tool. Okay, now we're going to move to another book. So we already talked about these two books, and this book we're going to go next because another book will go last. I already did for some parts of it. This book is more advanced and put into contents to show you how to use GIS to solve a lot of problems. It's a good book. And that's why I put it into last, because we have a lot of techniques in how we will frame the problem. But this book is starting to use the technology to solve the problem. And the product, it's a newly book. Published date is September 13th, which is really nice. And like it put into different lessons, and it start with framing the problem. How would you get started? How would you prepare data? So it's like a good workflow and with a big problem. So my order was that I start with this one and getting into a little more advanced. And if you want to start working on project stats, then start with this book. And once you finish everything, and use this book. I don't have this book yet, but hopefully once I have, then maybe I will do more. This one is Learning ArcGIS Pro. Those versions book is good, and a lot of people has GISP. They work on those books, and those book has a lot of technology part. And I don't believe I have this book yet, but it might be the next way that I can just explore. So, all right. So now we're gonna start with this book, Understanding GIS and ArcGIS Pro Project Workbook. So then it's like you work a big project that how would you get started? So it will be a good thing for you. So the first one is the volatile of Los Angeles River. So Los Angeles River we will learn and see some information here. So the volatile Los Angeles River is the reason that America's second largest city was found at its present Southern California location by Spaniards in 1781. So the area was originally settled thousands of years earlier by the Gabrielino Gangva tribe. So a California Indian tribe also known as the San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians. Its water was tapped for drinking and irrigation, and a new city spread out from the river across the coastal plain. So by the turn of the 20th century, the river across the coastal plain. So by the turn of the 20th century, the river was surrounded by a thriving urban center. So every few decades, raging floods would crest the banks at various points, submerging entire neighborhoods. After the historic floods of 1938 that claimed more than 100 lives and washed out bridges from Tawanga Wash to San Pedro, city leader had seen enough. So by 1941, the U.S. Army Corps Engineers had begun to strengthen, deepen, and reinforce the once wild waterway, which of its length was eventually lined in concrete, and the river was more or less tamed. So today, the city of Los Angeles, home to nearly 4 million people, is a vibrant world center of business and culture. Running straight through the heart of the city, the Los Angeles River now serves as a flood control channel. Sadly, this once bucolic waterway that was so instrumental to the formation of the city later became known as something ugly and marginal. Mile after mile of angled concrete appealed only to graffiti artists and filmmakers, and save for the occasional televised rescue for some hapless so Anglono swept away by a winter storm-fed torrent. The river remained a part of the city ignored by most. The negative perception has stuck with the neglected river for decades. But in recent years, as the city has densified and much of Southern California's wide lands have been appropriate for development, new attention is focused on the river corridor and the scattered pockets of open space that line its length, although it must always. So the historic floods of 1938 washed out bridges up and down the Los Angeles River, including this one at Colfax Street and Vernon Boulevard. So they also have some video to show. Alright, so now it's getting better. Some waterway in Los Angeles. Let's see about. Alright, let's go back and see some more. Los Angeles Architecture, River, Life, Death, Percival Rebirth. Oh, that's the book. Alright. And now let's just go back. Los Angeles River. Alright, so that's right here. It served as its important flood control function. The river had adjacent lands are increasingly recognized as underutilized, providing opportunities for regreening and psychic restorations for people living in an overbuilt city. Adventuresome and resourceful citizens have discovered peaceful pockets of sanctuary along the river and made these places their own. A vital and concerned artist activist community has raised awareness of the river and pushed for its beautification and redevelopment. So in 2005, the city launched a major public works project focused on the human dimension of the river. A landmark study, the Los Angeles River Revitalization Master Plan, demonstrated the significant potential of redevelopment to improve the quality of life for citizens living near the river corridor. So the mayor, Antonio Villaraigosa, said at that time, "We have an opportunity to create pocket parks and landscaped walkways, to create places where children can play and adults can stroll." According to Villaraigosa, the plan provides a 25 to 50-year blueprint for transforming the city's 32-mile stretch of the river into an aromatic necklace of parks, walkways, and bike paths, as well as providing better connections to the neighboring communities, protecting wildlife, promoting the health of the river, and leveraging economic reinvestment. So although the 2005 master plan identified some of the most obvious areas for large-scale regional development along the river, it stopped short of identifying smaller and more affordable neighborhood projects. That work would require a more involved study. With thousands of land parcels strewn out along the river, identifying the best place for park development is like the looking for a needle in a haystack. So many factors come into play, among them current land use, demographics, and accessibility. So in the years since the plan's completion,